Welcome back. Well, Nikki Haley says she will not drop out after losing big time to former President Trump in her home state of South Carolina last night, where the primary historically is a reliable tell for who will move on to the general election. So is it time for Nikki Haley to call it quits, or does she still have some sort of a path? We don't know where it leads, but a path. South Carolina GOP chair Drew McKissick joins us now. Drew, you're also involved in the National Republican Party. I'd like to ask you about that at some point. But you know the state. You saw the margin last night.
Yeah.
There was a moment where Will and I were watching, and Rachel and I were watching. We thought she's going to drop out. It almost sounded like a concession speech. She didn't.
Correct.
Why not?
Good question. I mean, what we saw last night was a blowout. You know, no two ways to parse it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 20 points is a blowout. Not only that, but you saw Donald Trump get the most votes anybody has ever received in a statewide primary here.
Is that what it was?
That was the most votes anybody's ever received. And we're just 10,000 votes shy of a record. Last time the record was in 2016, we had 765,000. We had 755 yesterday. But, you know, back then we had 17 candidates.
Well, that's an interesting demonstration of enthusiasm, too.
Totally. Well, compare that to the Democrat side of the street. So they only had 132,000 people turn out in their entire primary. And that's after Jim Clyburn and Joe Biden gave them the first in the nation primary.
That's right.
So we turned out 6 times more than they did with an incumbent president, with the first in the nation primary. The enthusiasm was on our side of the street, no doubt about it. They've got an enthusiasm problem.
We tried to figure this out last night. It's the million-dollar question. Why is she still in it? It looks like sabotage at this point. What is it?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, South Carolina has a tradition of being what I like to call the graveyard of presidential campaigns. You know, so we are the last opportunity for one state at a time focus before you move on to Super Tuesday, where, you know, it is cost prohibitive, manpower prohibitive, time prohibitive. You got to do well here to get that bounce.
Yep.
That's why it's important. And you have so many campaigns when they don't get that here, they know it's over and they're done, they can't raise the money, et cetera. You know, when you're 0-4, coming out of the gate and you've gone through all these primaries, you haven't won anywhere, you look forward at all the other primaries, and every one of them has a 30 to 50-point margin for Donald Trump. You got to wonder why you're hanging in. I mean, at some point, the campaign, the candidates have to do some soul searching. Is this good for me? Is this good for the party? Is this good for us to win? Why am I involved in this?
Absolutely. Let me ask the National Republican Party, because I believe you're one of the co-chairs of the RNC. Is that correct?
Right.
So you've got a seat at the table. I know the RNC is meeting in a couple of weeks. Will the party step in and say this is over?
Well, you know, the problem is the delegate election and selection process has to take place anyway. So, I mean, even if every candidate said, I'm done right now, I endorse Donald Trump, we still have to
go through it.
You have to elect delegates, bind delegates for our national convention.
Okay. Any prediction on when this wraps up? Let's say it does continue.
Mathematically.
Mathematically,
mathematically, it'll be over by the middle of March, no doubt about it. We elect 70% of our delegates by the end of March. By March 15th, mathematically, I don't see how we haven't reached the 50% tipping point.
Well, Drew McKissick, thank you very much for your time. And
yes, sir.
Here we go.